Hi, welcome to Cecil TV. I'm Doug Donnelly. And before we get to our guest, we have just want to point out I'm wearing a Western shirt because the rodeo is coming to town. I think Tuesday night and Wednesday night at the county fair, there is painted horse rodeo. I think it's paint horses. I'm not sure. But tonight's guest is someone we've had on before, twice before, and he is a very well-known photographer in this area, has a huge, huge social media following. So welcome back, Walter Dorsett.
Thank you for having me.
Walter has something new for us. Walter has published a book, and the name of the book is In the Eyes of Walter Dorsett. And so tell us, it's the book, it's over, you said 400 pictures.
Over 400 photographs, yes.
From various places through your, I believe you said the last 10 years of your photographic life.
Yes, correct. The last 10 years, 400 out of the 6,000 plus.
Yes.
So my top 400 that I narrowed down into 4 chapters, summer, autumn, winter, and spring, with a bonus chapter of self-portraits at the end.
Right. So you did some traveling to get these pictures.
Yes.
Where have you been?
Pretty much all over, but I would say the majority of the book is obviously Cecil County, with highlights from Northeast, Perryville, Charlestown, Chesapeake City, Elkton, Conowingo a little, and then obviously the cover, the front and the back being of Mount Rainier National Park in Washington State. And then, throughout the book, there's some highlights of like Catalina Island, Mexico, New York, just some waterfalls and stuff. I've been all over, but
right. And you managed to capture some amazing natural events, such as there is a photograph of a lighthouse in, I believe, South Carolina.
Yes, the Body Island Lighthouse in the Outer Banks.
Right, but you capture, as I said before, something I have never seen with my own eyes, which is the Milky Way, which is just incredible. Plus, lightning shots, animals in various stages of capturing their prey and so forth. How does it? I guess it takes a lot of patience to get these.
Yes, definitely a lot of patience, a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes and failures that people really don't see. A lot of attempts. The cover, for example, was I believe this was probably the second attempt. This was my final night in Mount Rainier National Park. And if I didn't get this photograph, I wouldn't have ever gotten it because my flight left early in the morning.
Right.
So, definitely a lot of patience, a little bit of luck, obviously, and some planning, of course.
So was this spring or summer in Mount Rainier?
So this is their summer. They've got about 2 months of it. I believe the snow starts melting for the most part in June. And then by July, most of the snow at the elevation of 6,500 feet like this is melted. And then there's wildflowers and wildlife and birds chirping. And then end of September, it starts snowing. So it's very short, but yes, this is their summer. So,
I mean, other than the simple beauty of so many of these pictures, what do you hope people take from it?
So I hope people take from it, what they've kind of missed out on, maybe.
Right.
I know before I started doing this travel photography, I looked through a book, and I mentioned it in this book, actually. It was a book by photographer Kevin Fleming, And I was working at a auction house. We were doing like estate sales. I was doing photographs, basically. It was awful. And I'm flipping through the book on my lunch break, and I was like, wow, like I really want to do this. Like I can't believe, like he had photographs of owls, and there was just so many different wildlife photographs, sunsets, eclipses. There was just everything in all of these photography books that I was looking at, and I was like, I can't believe I've never seen any of this. I was like, I want to see it, and then I also want to photograph it. So I became obsessed with photographing everything that I could find.
Right.
You know, just capturing everything that I could see, because once it's gone, it's gone. You know, looking through this book and then driving through Northeast and Cecil County, I've noticed a lot of changes. Whether the trees are not there anymore, there's a building in the way, they've completely, you know, remodeled the waterfront so you can't get some of these reflections in the puddles.
Right.
There's just so many changes that, you know, I know that if I didn't photograph these when I did, they wouldn't exist now. You know, they wouldn't be able to be replicated.
Well, that is the documentary value of, you know, that I'm aware of it, because one of the reasons we do what we do here is, even though, you know, we don't have 50,000 people watching us, but no one else is talking to people like you and hearing your stories and so forth. And that's, you know, that's going to be part of the historical record. For a skilled photographer like yourself, as you go through life, are you always thinking photograph? You know, like if you're driving down Route 40 and there's a sunset, or a, you know, interesting pattern of electrical lines or something.
Yeah, so first of all, I have a photographic memory. So taking that into account, I'm able to visualize a lot of these scenes beforehand. You know, like the Body Island Lighthouse with the Milky Way. I looked it up on Google Maps before, and then I looked at the Google Earth view. I saw the pathway. I mapped out where the Milky Way would be, and then I was like, okay, well, this is what I want to get. I visualized it, and the photograph was almost 100% what I was visualizing. And then a lot of the times when I'm driving or just passing by something, most of these photographs actually, at least of the wildlife, were taken from my car. So, you know, a lot of them, like I said, were by chance or just me, you know, being in the right place at the right time. But there's also a good bit of me just being imaginative and trying to create the perfect scene. You know, I think from early on, that's what I strived on, was the fact that everyone thought my work was fake. You know, they would look at my photograph and they would be like, that's not real. That they had no explanation for how
enhanced
it was. You know, they would think that it was like a composite or just something completely manipulated. Because really, if you weren't there, you didn't see it happen, and you don't know the story behind it, it's very hard to believe. You know, when I look at some other photographs from other artists too, I can relate to that because I haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen it, it's very hard to kind of visualize and believe it. But yeah, I mean, I would say as I drive around, especially early on, I would see everything in a photograph. I can just visualize it in photograph form. And I would say now I don't take those chances as much. Before I would race to capture everything. Now I'm more so, I like to sit back and just take in the moment as well. There are times when I go out and look at a sunset without my camera. Because I will say, and most photographers can relate, that when you go back and look at your work, sometimes you don't remember that moment. Especially some of like the wildlife photographs in here, it happens so quick that you really cannot remember that moment. You just remember clicking the shutter and like racing to try to get the perfect photograph, and you get it, but you weren't really in the moment.
Right, and there's always, I mean, you know, there are other experiences besides the visual.
Yes.
That you know, all can, that at some point in the future can, feed back into another photo.
Exactly.
So what haven't you photographed that you would like to photograph?
So I keep getting this question. There are a bunch of things, obviously. One being the annular eclipse. I photographed some total solar eclipses in the past. The annular is like the ring of fire, so it's not completely eclipsed by the moon. I think it's like 95% or something. So that's something I've seen in photographs. I've never seen in person. I'm excited about that this fall. And then I would say wildlife, grizzly bear, and then a snowy owl. The snowy owl, I was just telling someone the other day that I've chased that photograph for at least 6 years now. And I've gone as far as the beaches in New York to New Jersey, Maryland, Southern Maryland, all over where they're spotted. I've yet to see them. It was snowing one day in 2019, December maybe, and I was on Long Island Beach State Park maybe. And I'm going out through the sand dunes and snowing. I'm like, there's got to be a snowy owl out here. I see something that's white and large in the distance. I get so excited. I get my lens set up, run out to the top of the sand dune, zoom in, and it's a Walmart bag. So that kind of made me really upset. Everything was perfect except it was a bag.
Right.
So, that's something I've been chasing, and that's something that I hope to get for sure.
Right. So, are there book signings that people can go to?
Yes, there will
Meet
be.
You and
There will be book signings. I'm currently working with some local coffee shops and businesses. Those will probably be this fall. And then I will be setting up like a library speaking event with the Northeast Library. So that's
great.
That's upcoming. Most of them will all be in the fall, so they'll all be announced. But
right. Okay. So if you're interested in getting your own copy of Walter's book, they are available on your website. Your website is
walterdorsett.com. So very simple.
And as well as Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Yes, Barnes & Noble's website at the moment, working on getting it distributed into the stores. But that comes with, sales and all of that stuff.
Okay. So when the excitement of this book settles down, what's next?
Well, Doug, so there is something that no one knows. And I, of course, am writing other books at the moment. And the next book is part of this series that I also haven't announced. The series is Eyes of Walter Dorsett. And the next book is Behind the Eyes of Walter Dorsett. It will be coming out in January 2024. And the subtitle is Stories from Behind the Lens. So it'll be a compilation of 50 of not necessarily my best photographs, but my most story-worthy photographs. So it'll have the final product. It'll have a behind-the-scenes image of either me creating it, a photograph from that day, an outtake, one of the blurred ones or one of the missed opportunities, or one of the attempts, because a lot of these have multiple attempts as well. So it'll just talk about, what we go through as photographers to get these perfect photographs, because the stories are not perfect, So that's the next book, written entirely by me, of course. And yeah, it'll be out January 2024. And then after that, I don't know what else is going in the series, but the series is Eyes of Walter Dorsett. I don't know how many books there will be, but this is definitely the first. So
okay. And finally, you can win a copy of this book if you send us an email and just say book or Walter's book or whatever, so we know that it's about that. We will draw a lucky winner in 2 weeks on the show, and we will send you the book. Or if you're close, we'll bring it to you.
Or I might bring it to you.
Or Walter might bring it to you.
It'll definitely be signed, of course.
And it will be signed. Great. All right, Walter,
Doug,
thank you very much.
thank you
Always
for
a
having
pleasure. And thank you.